There's pretty much only one smartphone that can trump the HTC One Max in terms of screen size right now, and it's the Sony Xperia Z Ultra. Two absolute beasts, but how do they compare? The 5.9 inches of the HTC One Max screen just can't compete in terms of size, with the Sony Xperia Z Ultra clocking in at 6.4 inches. Having said that, the quality is there with its SLCD3 panel. Both of these devices look incredibly rich. They're really bright, especially if you tweak with the settings of the Sony Xperia Z Ultra. Having said that, the SLCD3 display just packs those little bit better viewing angles, and it's just really immersive, very minimal bezeling. Looks great. We just cannot stress enough how good both of these devices are in the screen department. As far as the designs go, the One Max really is as long as it is based on those boom sound speakers. This means if you're going to be listening to music without headphones, this is the only phone out there, aside from the HTC One, that will really let you have a decent experience doing so. Why? Because it's larger than the HTC One. The speakers are actually able to house even more space in order to reverberate that sound, and it just makes that bit of difference. Around the device, you can see on the right hand side you've got a volume rocker and a power button. Down below, micro USB port. To the left is a little toggle, which we'll come on to later, while up top is a infrared blast and a 3.5mm jack. On the back, camera, 4.3 megapixels, ultra pixel camera with a flash, and you've got a fingerprint scanner as well, which unfortunately wasn't all that great in our experience. If we flip this toggle that we spoke about earlier, you can actually see part of the back cover raises up, and we can remove it to reveal a micro SIM tray and micro SD card slot and a micro SIM slot. Putting that back on, you'll have to clip it into place, and overall the HTC One Max design feels good but not great. Not quite as premium as the HTC One, just because it's not that unibody seamless finish, but it's still richer than most of the devices on the market today. The Sony Xperia Z Ultra, however, is that seamless unibody finish. In fact, it's so thin at just 6.5 millimeters that it feels like a waif of a phone. It really is just pretty incredible to behold. It's a bit bezel-licious, and it hasn't got those giant speakers that the HTC One does, so less reasoning behind that. Aside from the fact it is so incredibly skinny, it's also lighter than the HTC One Max, despite packing that larger display. On the right side, you've got all the ports underneath flaps, micro SIM and micro SD card slot. Underneath the 3.5mm headphone jack, which nicely is actually exposed, you've got a power button as well as a volume rocker. And down below, just a pretty poor speaker, which unfortunately is extremely easy to cover up. And on the left side, you've got a dock connector as well as a micro USB power charger. Up at the top, no buttons whatsoever. All in all, the Xperia Z Ultra is a beautiful bit of kit. It's too big for a pocket, but it's definitely not too big for a bag, and we would have absolutely no shame whipping this thing out in public. The HTC One Max, however, is a little bit more pocketable, but still probably going to be too big for most. Inside the two phones, you've got two very different user experiences. You've got Sense 5.5 in the HTC One, and you've got Sony's tried and tested user interface in the Sony Xperia Z Ultra. Now, the One Max introduces the newest version of Sense, which has some updates to Blink feed, not to mention HTC Zoe and Zoe highlights, which, if anyone doesn't know, include taking a photo and video at the same time and turning them into some really cool video highlights which animate all your images and video and place them against music. It's a very nice way of handling your content. There isn't anything quite so rich on the Sony Xperia Z Ultra, but what you do have is extremely tight integration into Sony's Music and Video Unlimited services, as well as easy to swap out themes and a whole range of applications that Sony throw on board. Not to mention, you can use this thing with a pencil, which is also quite nice. One thing the Sony Xperia Z Ultra does have over the HTC One Max is waterproofing. So anyone who's prone to dunking their phone or using their phone out in the rain all the time will definitely appreciate that. As far as performance goes, both of these devices were very smooth on use. This Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 processor in the HTC One Max clocked at 1.7 GHz is a little bit behind that of the Z Ultra. The Xperia Z Ultra packs a Snapdragon 800 clocked at 2.23 gigs, so it really is the latest processor out there. Both of these have 2 GB of RAM. Honestly, you will not notice the HTC One Max slowing down. HTC's done such a good job of optimizing, but there may be some games down the line which will only really be able to take advantage of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor, and of course, as many of you already know, 4K video has been certified to work on the Snapdragon 800 processor, but not the 600 processor. Not that you'll need 4K video from screens like this. Either way, we digress. Connection-wise, both devices pack LTE. There's an infrared blaster on the HTC One Max, edging it slightly ahead. This has been a comparison of the Sony Xperia Z Ultra with the HTC One Max, 2 larger-than-life phones. Hopefully you found it useful. If you've got any questions, please fire them in the comments section below. And if you like the video, click like. And if you like our channel, please click subscribe.